Welcome, everybody. I am Dale Luganville with the Full Scale Outdoors podcast, and I'm going to make this intro super short because I met up with Nick A. Johnson, and we did a quick calling tutorial. So basics, getting down to the fundamentals of blowing a short reed goose call. He teaches these lessons. If you've heard him on my podcast before, we kind of dive into that. So I'm not going to ramble on. We're going to get right to this one. This is one I want you guys to download and keep it and play it all the time. Get good. I went in there. He found out some problems I had, and I was actually able to correct them. Not, we kept it short in the actual recording of the podcast, but like immediately after we got done recording, and I'm, on my way home, it's like, boom, I'd already fixed it thanks to the tips that he gave me. So he's a great teacher. He knows what he's talking about. He's a great caller. So I think you guys are really going to like this one. Early goose here in Minnesota is literally right around the corner. So, let's do it. Let's dive into it. This is the Full Scale Outdoors podcast. I'm Dale Luganville. Here is a goose calling lesson with Nick A. Johnson.
Oh, here we go, boys.
Go.
Ooh, I love that sound. This is a good one.
We're using the same call. Look at us.
Yeah, maybe we should start out with call recommendations.
We absolutely should.
The call that I recommend that people buy maybe first we should start with some introductions.
Yeah, well, I think people that are at least familiar with the Full Scale Outdoors podcast have heard of you before, but I am here with Nick A. Johnson, champion caller.
Thank you.
And all-around rad individual.
Thanks, man. Well, yeah, the reason we're here is to talk about short reed goose calling. And the reason we're doing it with me, I guess, is because I've been doing call tutoring for the last 4 or 5 years. Do a lot of youth seminars, so got some experience teaching people how to blow some goose calls. It's a lot of fun watching people progress right in this kitchen, man.
I bet
There's
it would
been
be.
some awesome high fives.
Didn't you say, we can get in this because I want to do like an actual podcast too, so we'll probably try to keep this kind of short and get right into the meat of it. But didn't you say you've seen some of the guys that you've taught like share the competition stage with you?
Yeah,
Did
Joey
I hear-
Vassallo.
yeah,
He's
that's
an awesome
crazy.
caller. That's how I met Joey Vassallo. Was he came over for a calling lesson.
That's awesome.
And he was pretty damn good when he got here.
Well, still.
Yeah, we just worked on a couple little things, and then like a
It's
month
like, oh,
later, he
great.
was insanely good.
Now he's kicking your ass. No, I'm just, I have no idea if he is or not, but
Okay, well, yeah, we had talked about doing this just like a call lesson, kind of, and I
Yeah,
don't think
so I
that's
think-
a bad idea.
no, let's do it. Let's try to keep this like on subject, and let's just treat this as a lesson. I'm some schmuck off the street that heard about you and paid the money, and let's learn how to blow a goose call.
All right, yeah, like we were talking about recommendations on goose calls. I like to recommend some basic call that is going to have a full range of Canada goose sounds, not something specialized like a cackler call or something that's specialized to do like moans and trains or something, So I like to recommend like a Moltgear EX3 or Moltgear EX3 X series, and me and you are both holding the Lifetime Waterfowler Go-To call, which is an awesome learning call.
I'm pretty impressed with it, actually.
Yeah, me too. I hunt with it all the
For
time.
$60.
Yeah, I love Delrin for hunting.
Holy crap.
Yeah, it's a great call. So these calls got like a good full range of motion and provide people with what they need. So the way you hold a goose call, let's just start out like you've never seen this thing before. The way you hold the goose call is you hold out your hand that you write with, put the insert in between the webbing between your thumb and your forefinger, wrap your thumb and forefinger just around the end so the three fingers dangle off the end. And then you take your offhand, it's called, the hand you don't write with, and you take those 4 fingertips, you put them on the knuckles that you knock on a door with. So those go right there. And on the back of your hands, your thumbs should come together and seal and be straight vertical from your face.
Because this isn't video, if anybody has ever tried to take a blade of grass
Yeah, and whistle through it.
whistle through it,
Yep.
that's what your 2 thumbs basically are looking like right now.
And then,
And we're right-handed, so right now our call's on our right hand, our thumbs are together,
Yep.
The only thing gripping the call is the thumb and forefinger on our right hand.
Yep. And the other 3 fingers are
They're
dangling
loose.
off
Yep.
in what we call
They're
the
just
neutral C
relaxed.
position, relaxed. And then you create that blade of grass whistling with your 2 thumbs, and you put the 3 fingers like that on your knocking knuckles.
Okay, so the tips of your hand, so the tips of the fingers on your left hand are lining up with your knuckles on your right hand.
Yep.
They're not hanging over it. They're not below it. They're on the
And this
they're
left
on your
hand,
knuckles.
this left hand, you kind of cock back a little bit like that, and what you're doing is you're just making a megaphone with your hands that are wrapped around a goose call. That's
Okay.
about all
Yeah,
we're
so
doing.
if you're going to put your hands together and yell at your buddy,
Like, yep, exactly. Like,
you're doing the same thing.
hey guys, yep.
Yep, you're holding onto a call
Yep.
when you're doing that. All
That's
right.
basically
Got
exactly what we've created. And the hand that you hold it with, the right hand, this hand controls just the pitch of the goose call. Now, you don't want this hand clamped really tight. You want it in a neutral position. You don't want any air restricted coming out of a goose call. So what the right hand does is it controls the pitch from low to high. So you can get sounds by opening and closing your hands that go low cluck, high cluck. Sounds like stuff like that. And the offhand, the only job it has is to make your goose call sound good. So when we're creating that megaphone by the hand position that we talked about earlier, we're just adding a lot of depth and tone to a call. So you can see how that changes a call when I put my hand up here, like.
That's a really good demonstration. Like, I think a lot of people that hear somebody calling, they might think that you're putting a deeper tone in there, and really all you're doing is kind of
Yeah,
changing the cone of your megaphone,
Yep.
if you will.
the left hand, all it's doing, and that doesn't move around either, not very much.
Yeah.
So if you're moving your hands quite a bit, learning a goose call, then you're probably hindering your learning because you're throwing off the pressures. And speaking of pressures, people will say that you need back pressure to control a goose call, which is not true. All these sounds are every sound on a goose call you can do without hands. Everything you can do without hands. So somebody says, yeah, you need to choke down and increase the back pressure. No, you don't need to.
but
Yeah,
maybe it helps. I don't know.
So anyways, you put the call to your mouth, same concept as your hands. You don't want to restrict any air going into the call. So wrap your lips all the way around it like you're drinking out of a soda bottle. If you have your lips pinched down, especially
that?
guys love to do it with their top lip. Like rest it on your bottom lip and pinch it with your top. If you're doing that, you're restricting airflow, and you don't want to restrict.
I am doing it wrongly.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That's what I was doing.
And that'll really prevent you from getting where you need to go with calling. The call needs to be a straight tube from your diaphragm to out the back of your hands. You don't want any airflow getting restricted anywhere.
So you're already fixing my bad habits.
Tons of people do that. So, and then once we get past that point, I get a lot of guys in here and they're like, I'm just having trouble doing the spit note, and I'm just having trouble getting rolling double clucks and triple clucks. How do I do that? And that's a huge problem you see with YouTube videos too. Like put in like how to double cluck, and somebody will say, what you do is you go into a call. Listen, here it is. All right.
Just do that.
Yeah. End of YouTube video.
And cut.
So what I like to teach guys is to go break everything back down to the fundamentals. So there's no like advanced calling class. There's no beginner calling class.
Sure.
Like if you're struggling with advanced notes, it's because you're struggling somewhere in your fundamentals.
You're probably not putting your mouth on the call right.
That
as I was just doing.
So what are the fundamentals of goose calling? Like if a guy wants to write this down out in front of him, I call it the uita. I just write out 2 O's, 2 I's, 2 T's, 2 A's. Okay, now geese make 2 notes. They make a moan and a cluck. And the calls that guys want to do, like spit notes, double clucks, moans, that's all within the uita. Like the oo is your moans, the uwit's your cluck, uita is the start of a double cluck, ta is a spit note, stuff like that. Ita is a hiccup. So you can learn everything on a goose call just by getting your fundamentals down with uita. So I want you to repeat after me. Like a lot of times guys are a little surprised we don't do a lot of goose noises when we were learning how to goose call. What I'm
'Cause
teaching
we're
guys
going
is
back to the fundamentals.
yeah. Well, what I'm making sure is you know how to blow that call correctly in the first place, you know,
Okay.
and where we're gonna run into your walls. So just repeat after me. I want you to blow into the call just like I do, and we'll do a little back and forth. Are you
Okay.
cool with that?
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
And so this is just we're just saying ooh into the call, and we're just gonna blow it like a party horn. All right.
Okay.
So this is just your cheeks can puff out and everything. I just want you to blow straight air into the call like this. All right. So a lot of guys struggle there. I mean,
Really?
I'm not kidding you. Like
Okay,
where they
well.
can't help but break it over.
Oh, okay. They've
So-
just gotten so into
Okay.
the habit of cracking that.
Now
note.
see if you can do it without puffing your cheeks. Okay, so I'm having you hold the note for a really long time. And that's what I get guys doing. Like, learn to blow that just party horn noise, unrestricted air, without breaking the reed over. A lot of guys will actually break it to the high note when they do that. And they have to
Okay.
go back to the beginning learning how to just hold their bottom notes. So the next step from that is learning how to put voice inflection into the call. And the easiest way to put that into words, to express that, it's like how do you go from like a high-pitched moan to a low-pitched moan? Meaning from to like that. And that's achieved by putting voice inflection into a goose call. It's not grunting from the back of your throat. It's using your natural vocal ability to add vocalization, like a hum, a natural hum, into a sound. So the easiest way to describe this is within the English language, if you were to sound out the letter F, just 10 Fs in a row, how would that sound? Exactly. How about the letter V? Okay. F and V are the exact same
Okay.
tongue and lip and mouth position, but you're just adding in voice inflection to,
For a V.
to create a V. Same with S and Z. So just sound out
Yep.
S and now Z.
Zzz. Yeah, you're just putting
Exactly.
voice in there.
Yep. Same tongue position, different throat inflection. And that's coming from your voice box. So that's how we learn how to do the deeper moans into a goose call. So we'll practice this backwards into a call, just so it doesn't make any noise. But blow that clean note through it. Okay, now when we do the voice inflection note, it's going to sound like a tugboat through the steam. All right? It sounds like... Exactly. So let's turn it around and see if you can't blow a clean note followed by a tugboat.
Okay.
So... All right, perfect.
Woohoo! Don't suck. Yet.
The voice inflection thing is really tough for people to get. People who pinch their mouth down, especially.
And I've got to be really. I think I might have slipped into that in that last
And
round too.
so yeah, from there we can move on to a full like ooh-it, which is going to be the fundamentals of a cluck. So from this step, like once I got guys that are kind of understanding the voice inflection and the moans, we're going to extend that out and we're going to blow it really loud. And when we hit it, like from the ooh-it, you hit it really hard and really fast. Louder the better. And the reason is guys struggle getting the reed to break into from a low note to a high note. Meaning like they get a sound like now
This is great if you're calling in peacocks. 'Cause
right.
That's right on the money.
So guys want to know why they can't get it to go why they can't get the reed to crack. So the reason the reed cracks is because it hits a certain pressure point where it snaps up into a high note instead of rolling up into a high note.
And you're not doing that with your tongue. You're just adding more air.
My tongue is doing it by pinching off the airflow
Okay.
naturally
All right.
in the it because your tongue is going to the roof of your mouth.
Gotcha.
The air goes over it faster. Here's the thing about that pressure spot. I call it the sweet spot where the note breaks over or where the pressure breaks the reed over. It's easier to achieve when you blow really, really loud and when you hit the it really, really hard. We are using a crutch to achieve it. So if you are a guy who's having trouble getting the reed to break and you're getting a lot of this note. One major cause for that is cheeks puffing out. Another major cause is flaring your hands and not keeping them just still. And then the next thing is finding that pressure spot, the sweet spot that breaks over the reed. And that pressure spot is a lot easier to find when you blow really hard. So when you hit the it really hard, what you're going to do is accidentally break the reed over. So here's the sound you're looking to achieve. We'll do another little Simon Says session. So do an ooh it after me. We're going to do it really loud, and then hit the it super hard.
Okay.
It's even all right if you shatter it a little like I do. I mean, just even blow it harder, but I can tell you're not being able to crack it over. Can you do it at a lower volume?
Just in a cluck?
Yeah, but can you do a full ooh it? Like, you can't, so you're cheating your way into a cluck.
All right. Cheater. This is good. I'm glad
The reason you're getting your cluck is the reason I tell people to hit the it really fast. Because you're getting your cluck because you're accidentally hitting your sweet spot somewhere in there. But you're not sure exactly how you're doing it. The no way I can tell is because you can't do an ooh it.
Okay.
So what we are trying to do is cheat our way into it in a way by hitting the it really fast. By you doing your clucks insanely fast like that, like a lot of guys do that and know how to accidentally hit their sweet spot of the reed.
Okay.
So what you're going to want to practice, and this sometimes is the full hour for guys, like just working on reed breaking. So see if you can repeat after me. Hit that it even faster, like you're hitting it with your clucks.
Okay.
So
I'm not getting it to crack.
Yep.
I'm already irritated.
Let me see how you're holding that call. All right. Do a couple more with me. Open your hands up.
Terrible.
I think your air is restricted. Yeah.
Am I not using enough air? I wonder.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm definitely not used to using that much air to get it to break.
Are you pinching your lips as well?
Oh, that could be. Am I doing this again? Probably.
If you're already restricting the airflow with your lips, it's hard to manipulate it with your throat, tongue, mouth.
Well, let's just keep trying it, I guess.
So, okay. I don't want to pause here and go into this for the next half an hour.
Right. Well, yeah, that's going to be hard to move past if I can't get this, but we can work on that later. I guess.
So once you get – this is obviously something that you're definitely going to want to go home and practice, finding where your reed breaks over.
Until you get this part down, which obviously I do not have and I need to practice more, don't go any further until you get this.
We're going to
pretend
that you just fucking nailed that.
Yeah. Killer.
And from there, like I teach people to start adding the voice inflection into the ooh it, and that goes like well, that's interesting. Why can you break it over there?
Know.
I think it's because you're still pinching those lips down, man.
Probably.
But we know that you are definitely putting voice inflection into your crutch notes now.
Okay.
And you're struggling to blow clean notes.
Yes, I'm not good at blowing clean notes.
Yeah, so you
Almost
are a guy.
Every time, like the muscle memory kicks in when I pick up a call, I always put voice in it.
Yep, and some guys are like that. I just had a guy last week that already knew how to do voice inflection but was struggling with clean air.
That's me.
And yeah, which is kind of interesting because normally it's actually the opposite. Most guys learn clean air and then struggle with the voice.
Yeah,
or they don't learn voice, they learn grunt. And that's a whole nother animal to tackle.
Yeah.
So you can get this if you're cheating your way into it with voice inflection. You're going to want to practice doing it without it. So from there, I teach guys to do it with the voice inflection. From there, I want people to start being able to hold the it on both ends, the low note, then the high note. This is what you're going to want to practice after, and it sounds like this.
put this ear on because that is loud as fuck.
So the reason we do that is because you're learning how to control the goose call, whatever you want it to do. You can hold the low note however you want to hold it, and you can hold the high note however you want to hold, however long you'd like to hold it.
So you didn't put any voice into that one. That was clean, which
No.
means it's gonna suck when
And
I
the only
try it.
part that gets voice is the two O's. It's
Okay.
impossible to do its with it voice inflection, so you get the it's always clean.
Or should be. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, if you're trying to voice inflect you're probably not getting enough air pressure to
Okay.
push
I
it
mean, I
through.
don't know that if I am. Just the fact that I was able to break the with voice and not without.
So the reason we do this extremely long and it doesn't really sound like a goose, and I'm not even worried about it sounding like a goose, is like we're teaching you how to manipulate the low note, manipulate the high note, and then find the sweet spot in between. From there, the challenge becomes once you can able to manipulate ooh it, remember it's easier louder. The challenge is to get it quieter and shorter. And that's where the pressure point where the reed snaps from a low to a high note becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. The window becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. That's why it's easier to hit the perfect pressure to crack the reed when you're blowing hard and loud compared to when you're doing something like really, really soft, gentle stuff. So guys with crutches where they're like accidentally pushing their way into a cluck are always going to struggle being subtle, quiet on the low end because they can't help but push their way through to a cluck. So a lot of times that sounds like that. And you just can't get that down to a and all that is being able to control the pressures at lower volumes. So as you learn, you're going to want to take that ooh it, and it's going to go and start working its way down. You're whittling it down. Like that. But you want to start long to make sure you're doing all those notes
Doing it right.
correctly. And the thing that we, to keep in mind is when you're doing it 6 seconds long, your mouth, voice inflection, and tongue is in the exact same identical position as when it's, a tenth of a second long. Like, that's why we train super loud, super long. I mean, it's muscle memory. We're training our tongue to always go to the same place, snap to your roof of your mouth the same way. And it doesn't matter right now if it sounds like a goose. You want to be able to control your goose call. The sound, like the good calling sound, will come later. You can never get to another level without the fundamentals. And the reason that my cluck doesn't sound like your cluck is because I've done it 7 million more times.
Right.
And once you've done it 7 million more times, like you'll know how to put your hands to make it the best for you. You'll get your own little style in it, and that just kind of comes with time. So, then from there, I put on those 2 A's at the end for ooh it ah. So once you start to master the ooh it voice inflection, I put the ahs at the end. You don't have to wait till you master it either. But this is just a great stepping stone on how to get to the next step. So ooh it ah is like that. So you add that ah in the end, and what you're doing is training your muscle memory to go right back.
Going back to the neutral.
It's an instant reset. And it's also coming from the top of your mouth. So with this ta, when people say they can't perform a spit note, which is a really common note people trying to learn how to do, it's because they don't know how to hold their high note. Because a ta requires you both to hold a high note and drop into a low note. Like that all comes from ta. You're holding the high note first, the T's, and then, the it's, and then you're dropping into the low octave. So another thing it does is it trains you to go right back into another cluck. So when you're learning ooh it ah, you're training your body to get another cluck going immediately after it finishes its first cluck. So, I mean, just really fast ooh it ahs sound like this. And
When you and this is like second nature to you, I'm sure, because you've done it 8,000 times or better, like you said. Do you like vision, like what you have down? Like when you're doing that, are you in your head? Are you seeing uita, uita, uita? Or are you just on cruise control at that point?
no, you got to think about your mouth and where it is and the voice inflection you want to put in or not put in. And yeah, I like to write it out, visualize it. That's one thing I definitely do for calling sequences. Like when I was first trying to learn, sequences are a big thing once you've really started to get good at doing different notes in different places. High cluck, low cluck, moan cluck. So I would actually watch YouTube videos and I would write down the sequence that somebody was doing that I liked. I mean, the sequences that people do are only like 4, 5, 6 seconds. Like I can't tell you how many times, like I've probably blown that sequence 7 million times.
Right.
Well, that all starts with a pen and paper for me.
Okay.
So I'll, pick out a note sequence I'm trying to do, even if it doesn't sound natural at first, and I'll just make like abbreviations like cluck, double cluck, moan, cluck, and just see if I can do it just from a piece of paper. So cluck, double cluck, moan, cluck. And just practice that over and over and over. You get yourself a little sequence.
It's like an actual musical instrument.
So you can get yourself some really good calling sequences by doing it that way. And definitely with the basic stuff like the ooh-it-ahs. That's a little side tangent, I guess, but
I mean, I guess it's all how whatever works for the individual. If going, uita works for them, or if you're doing the C, cluck, DC, double cluck, and moan, C, cluck, and you just write it out like a music note almost, or like guitar tablature.
Right, and that was just off the top of my head. And
right.
Even after I did it 10 times, I could start to feel a little rhythm to it, and started to ingrain into my brain.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, I would write all those out. Like I'd, go to watch a calling contest footage, write it out, just 6 or 7 seconds worth, and see if I couldn't just repeat it slowly and then repeat it faster and so on and so forth. That's how you get sequences rolling. And what we were talking about, ooh-it-ah, that's going to contain all your basic notes. And
except for the moan, or does it? Is the moan
the only
in there?
thing, actually, the ooh-it-ah, that's a good point. Ooh-it-ah doesn't cover one aspect of calling, and that's rolling double and rolling triple clucks. So when people are trying to learn rolling doubles and rolling triples, there is no T anymore. The T section gets eliminated, and it's ooh-ee-ah. And when you're practicing ooh-ee-ah, you're learning how to break the call over, find the sweet pressure spot, without having your tongue hit the top of your mouth. There's no closure of the note. So the very weird sound that you make when you're practicing this is called an ambulance, is what I call it. And you're going to just practice an ooh-ee-ah, and you're just raising the call from low note to high note without ever stopping your airflow.
Yeah, that totally sounds like you're cracking it like with your tongue, but you're not, because you're
That's
able to hold that.
That's all
note.
throat.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit more difficult, a little less intuitive than, and it's certainly there's less of a crutch than being able to just slam your tongue to the roof of your mouth with a T. So the ambulance, if you can do an ambulance, hold the low as long as you want, hold the high as long as you want. You can hold those notes as long as you want. You can do a rolling double and you can do a rolling triple. You just don't know it yet. So, you start out from there with the ooh-ee-ah, and then you just work it goosier, work it shorter, work it faster, and one day you can do... and then a trip.
So if you do, obviously I can't do it that good, but I can do a similar thing, but with closing my tongue off just really fast. That's cheating. What you would call cheating your way to that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because you're controlling the read, but you're not sure how.
Right.
And it shows when, you go back to the fundamentals and you can't perform them. So immediately we found your first hurdle.
Right. pretty fast.
It goes that way. I mean, people are like, well, we're gonna sit here and work on ooh it ah, like yeah, and then we work for the whole day, like a whole
that's
hour.
what needs to be done. I mean, whether it's guitar or whatever it is, if you can't get a B chord, if anybody knows that, that's it's a really weird finger formation for those that don't play guitar. Like a couple of your fingers are real close and the other ones are far across. You got to stretch, and it's not the first time you do it. It's not natural. Well, if you can't do that, I mean, it's one of the major chords.
Yeah,
So,
if you can't do the fundamental of the note, you can't do the note.
Yeah, zero reason trying to learn an actual song.
Right.
If you can't get one of the major notes in the song.
If you're watching YouTube videos about how to do a spit note and you can't hold a high note in your fundamentals, it doesn't matter how many YouTube videos you watch. You're never going to be able to break yourself of a bad habit without rebuilding from the start.
And you're probably just going to get frustrated, and this is probably what happened to you without knowing it, get frustrated and then just go with what, lean on your crutch even more, which
exactly.
We're going to talk about muscle memory. If the more you lean on the crutch, the more you need the crutch.
So with you, what we would be working on for sure is like blowing clean air in the call. And we'd be going back to the party horn, like all the way to the basics.
Like, hopefully people listen to this, they download it, and we see a lot of people in their cars the next 2 weeks for goose season opens just in traffic blowing on their goose call. 'Cause that's what I do. I mean, that's what I did to get as far as I have.
Right. And so, I mean, we could sit here and work on that, but I mean, I think the main takeaway is, get back to the basics. Make sure you can do voice inflection ooh-wits, clean ooh-wits, be able to hold your low, hold your high, start working on getting the sweet spot shorter and quieter.
There was something else I was going to ask, but it's not jumping out at me, so it can't be that important. So
that's a pretty basic lesson, but when we turn off the recording, I'll work with you a little more because it would definitely take a while, but I could get you cracking the call in like the next 10, 15 minutes,
Well, then we can do a legit podcast. We can talk, how they actually flow. So, yeah, I think that was good. You want to just do a real quick recap into just go, ooh, do it as an example?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just a quick progression. And then people can obviously go back, just rewind it and listen to the parts that you personally need to listen to, and don't move on until you get there. So
right.
Just give them we'll end with one last
work on the fundamentals.
Series.
Work on oohs, ooh-wits. Same with voice inflection. Like that, and then work on ooh-it-ahs. And then work on get them shorter and quieter. I mean, that's really the name of the game.
And then one big exclamation point, and I'll just show off. Give me a really impressive sequence. Competition sequence, and go. Perfect. We'll end on that.